Hey, Kens. I hope you're doing well. I'm sorry this has taken me so long. I got sick, not with COVID, just some weird mini lung infection, which I don't know how I got because I don't go anywhere and I wash my hands a million times a day and I wear a mask. But that's how it's been. So, and then the holidays and all that. So I'm sorry it's taken me so long. When you first told me you wanted this, I was like, okay, cool, I can do that. Oh, what are those two systems? Because there are two counting systems in Korean. And I'm glad for Google because I looked up, as with the whole thing, like all these images are from the internet. But so counting in Korean is, it depends on what you're trying to do. So there are two counting systems in Korean. That's not, you don't, oh, there we go. We have here on the left the native Korean numbers, because I believe those are invented in Korea. And then there are the Sino-Korean numbers. And I'm guessing by the name of that the origins of that system are from China. And I think that they have also been adopted in Japan. So I remember as a kid, a neighborhood child was learning karate and he was counting in Japanese, and it was really similar. So we're going to go over both of these systems. So the first one is the native Korean numbers, and I like this slide better than this one because it tells you how to count beyond 10. So first we have 0, which is Yong, and then we have 1, which is Hana or Han, depending on the context. I'll write that here. Han, depending on the context. If you remember, this is Hyut, this is A, Nian, and A. So I'm just reading in Korean. 2 is Tul, Tigut, U, Ul, Tul. And then 3 is Het, Set. So the pachim for Set is the Shiut, and when it's by itself, it makes T sound, like here, Shet, Set, Set. Set. And then same with here, Net for 4, Net. So Hana, Tur, Set, Net. And then we have 5 is Tasot, Tasot. 6, Yosot. 7, Ilgop, Ilgop. 8 is Yodolp. And so you see the pachim here is real and piup, Yodolp, Yodolp. So I don't really know why it doesn't say, because the piup is not, I wouldn't say it's silent. Yodolp. 9 is ahop, and then 10 is yol. And so then when it comes to saying 11, 12, 13, 14, and so on, it's pretty similar to other counting systems in other languages where you take 10 and then you add 1. So 11 is 10 and 1, and 10 is yol, so yol, and then at 1 is hana, hana. So 11 is yorhana, yorhana. 12 is yortul, yortul, yorset. And then we have 14 is yornet, yornet. But I don't know if you remember, but I told you that when you combine real and nian, when you combine those two consonants, it's a special case and one overrides the other. And in this case, the real overrides the nian. And so I don't really know why it says yornet, because Koreans wouldn't pronounce that yornet. They'd pronounce it yorlet, yorlet. So this would just be yorlet. And then yortasot, yoryosot. So we're at 16 now. So 16 is yor, which is 10, and then yosot, which is 6. So 10 plus 6 is yor yosot, yor ilgop, yor yor yodolp, yor yodolp, yor ahop, and then you get into 20, and it's sumul, sumul. And then the system starts over. So to say 21, you'd say sumulhan, sumulhana, and then sumultul, sumulset, and so on and so forth. And so then to say 30, you say soren. 40 is mahun, maun. 50 is shin, shin. 60 is yesun, yesun. 70 is irun, irun. 80 is yodun, 90 is ahun, and 100 is on. I've actually never heard it go that high. Okay, so those are the native Korean numbers from 0 to 100, and I think it stops actually at 100. I think I read that while I was researching for this lesson. And so then to say numbers, to say numbers that are higher than 100, you always use Sino-Korean. But here's how you say Sino-Korean numbers that are less than 100. So 1 is il, 2 is i, 3 is sam, 4 is sa, 5 is o, 6 is yuk, 7 is chil, 8 is pal, 9 is ku, and 10 is ship. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And that might sound familiar to you because as I said, I remember this kid was shouting while he was showing us his karate moves, and I was like, that sounds like Korean. And so then again, similar to the other systems, when you're saying 11, you're saying 10 and 1. So here you'd have ship, and then you have il, so you have ship il. Ship il, ship i, ship sam, ship sa, ship o, ship yuk, shim yuk. This is one of those weird special ship yuk. I think this is one of those weird special cases of this consonant becoming more like an but that's okay. That's beyond. And then it's fine. Ship chil, ship pal, ship ku, and then 20 is e ship because it is 2 e sheep. So it's basically 2 times 10. E ship. And then you have sam ship, sa ship, o ship, yuk ship, chil ship, pal ship, ku ship, and pek. And those are the Sino-Korean numbers. And then there it goes higher. So if you want to do 1,000, it's chon. And that's important if you ever go to Korea because one of the Korean units that are like roughly $1 is called a cheon. It's 1,001. I'll stop. Okay. So and there because it goes higher because it's like only like $1 because then we can go to that anyway. So those are the Sino-Korean numbers. So when do you use each? There are no hard and fast rules. It changes. But my understanding is very roughly, you're going to use the native Korean numbers when you're counting things. So when you're saying, this is how old I am, when you're referring to your age, you are basically giving them a count of your years. So if, for example, you were 24, you'd say that you were sumul, and then because of the rir here, and then nian, sumulle, and then sal. So the units for years or when you're giving your age is sal, sumulle sal. And then if you were to go to a restaurant, they'd ask you 몇 분이세요? Like how many people are in your party. And 분 is the unit for person, but it's honorific. They're kind of like saying how many esteemed people are in your party. And then if there were 3 people in your party, you'd say 세 사람. So you wouldn't use 분. I think that'd be kind of weird. I think that they would think that was weird. But you're saying there are 3 people in our party. And then sometimes you use myung, and I can't for the life of me tell you right now when you would do that. I recognize it when I see it. When you are counting animals, you call them mari. And so if there are, I know you're a vet tech, so I thought you might find this interesting. So if there were 5 puppies, you'd say 다섯 mari. And then just as a funny joke, I use mari when I'm talking about my sisters and me to my mom or to our kids. If my mom says how many kids are coming or whatever, I'll use the unit mari, and she thinks that that's really funny. I have my fun. And then inanimate objects, just roughly catch-all things is ke. So if you're saying, oh my God, what? Like what? What would be like an example of that? Like marbles. I don't know where that came from. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. How many marbles? 일곱 개. 7, and then 개. 일곱 개. And then time and hours we're going to go over later. but you're counting hours in Korean. And then when you're ordering numbers of glasses of things, it's chan. And I bring this up not necessarily because I think you think this is interesting, but because this has actually come up in our Korean lessons before. So if you're ordering, if you're at a restaurant and you want 2 glasses of water, you say tu chan. I don't know, the real drops. It depends on the context. So tu chan or se chan. And this has come up in the past because I don't know if you remember this slide, but I told you that 한잔 하다 is a phrase in Korean which means let's drink. But it literally translates to, this is han, we remember, can I go back? Means one. Han, and then chan means glass. It's the unit for glass. So han chan. And then in another lesson I told you, 하다 means to do. It's a verb stem meaning to do. So 한잔 하다 literally translates one drink, let's do. And in Korean culture, honestly, when you say 한잔 하다 and you're saying, hey, let's go have a drink, especially this is just part of Korean drinking culture. It's kind of said ironically because of the binge drinking in Korea. So if you're like, hey, let's go have a drink, but you're saying it ironically, you're about to go binge. All right. Okay. So then when do you use the Sino-Korean numbers? And as far as I can tell, that's roughly for when you're naming numbers. So when you're saying your phone number or your address. So I looked up the area code for Rochester. So 507, this is a phone number I made up. I don't know what it is. 507-925-2144 would be 5. We have O. And then this is weird to me because I learned 0 as Kong. So my mind is kind of blown by this. I think we should probably follow this. So anyway, so O, Young, and then 7 is Chil. So 507 is O, Kong, O, Young, Chil. Like I told you, I learned it as Kong. Sorry. O, Young, Chil. And then in between the units of a phone number, you say eh. And I'm going to write it in English because I don't know how to spell it. I don't remember which it is. If it's this or this It's one of those two. I don't remember. So you say 507 O Young Chil and then 925 is Ku I O I 2144. So this phone number is 507-925-2144. And I did it again. I called it Kong. I'm sorry. It's one of the two. What's the worst thing that can happen? And then it's also for when you're like naming minutes when you're telling the time. And am I going to go over that right now? Yes, I am. So when you are telling time in Korean, when you're saying the hours in native Korean, so that's in native, and then you're saying the minutes in Sino-Korean. So Sino. So to say 3:25, you'd say the hours are in native. So you'd say 세, that's 3. 세시. So the unit for hours in Korean is 시. So 세시. And then you're like listing the minutes in Sino. And so to say 25 is 이 십 오, and then the units for minute is pun, which I also told you is people. I never said it was a straight foreign language. Okay, so it's 25분, and that's how you say 3:25 in Korean. So 세시 25분 is 3:25. And then you have 15 minutes right here is 15분, see? 15분, if you go back to the other side, 10 is 10, O is 5, and then 분, I just told you, is minutes, so you're saying 10 plus 5 minutes. And then this 30분, 3 is 3, sheep is 10, and that's 3 times 10, so it's 30. Or you can say pan, which means half. 세시 반. Or you can say 45분. 45분. I'll break that down. 45분. 사 is 4. 10 is 10, so that's 40. And then you're adding the 5, 45, and then 분, this unit for minutes. 분. I know it's kind of confusing. So that's all I have for you. I don't know if that's all you wanted, but I wanted to be clear that there are two systems for telling time in Korean, and they're, kind of for different purposes. This would be for counting, and this would be for like naming the numbers. And then when it comes to counting, you have to be mindful of the units that you're using when you're counting the things. That's all I have for you. I hope you're doing well, and I'll send this as soon as it's published.